Welcome to Malt Mondays. I'm Paul, and today we're taking a look at the Glenlivet 25-year-old, the oldest of their standard range. It's priced at $450, but is it worth that? Let's find out.
In Scotland, would you accidentally drive up to Talisker?
This is, at 25 years old, a relatively standard price for single malt Scotch whiskey. Most 25-year-olds are now reaching into the $400, $500 range for most distilleries. There's still a few like Glenfarclas that can be found much lower than that, but if you go up to the likes of Macallan, which has a little bit more brand cachet than the Glenlivet, now you're looking at $2,000 for 25 years old. Now, I have pre-poured this because Glenlivet is a little bit more of a delicate whiskey, but primarily because of the age. Older whiskeys tend to develop in the glass and change a little bit more over time, so it's always nice to pre-pour them so that you get a little bit more of a tasting of what is really everything that's going on with that whiskey. Good rule of thumb is a minute per year. Now, this is a really nice golden color, but I don't know that Glenlivet is naturally colored. As far as I know, they don't state it on their bottle anywhere, and I haven't seen it on the website. So I'm going to have to assume that there's some artificial coloring in here. That being said, this isn't too dark for a 25-year-old, especially because this is being finished in hand-selected first fill Oloroso sherry casks. Hand-selected just means that somebody somewhere picked out that barrel by hand. That doesn't necessarily mean that the head distiller did it or the head blender. It could have been just the intern could have hand selected that barrel. You would expect that for the top of the range bottle that they would have put a little more love and care into selecting those casks, and I would have no reason to doubt that they actually did so. This is presented at 43% ABV, and it is chill filtered. So as far as, the things that I like to see in a whiskey, which is 46% or higher, it doesn't hit that. I prefer natural coloring, I'm not sure, and non-chill filtered, it also misses that mark. So it's not off to a great start, especially at the price point. But let's see. Obviously, those are just nice to haves. They by no means make a whiskey absolutely amazing or necessarily not great. So let's see how it smells and let's see how it tastes. Wow. This is one of those whiskeys that if you had to describe what a perfect Scotch whiskey would be like, I kind of think this is up there in that discussion. Although it is finished in first fill Oloroso sherry casks, the sherry is not dominant here. This reminds me much more of an ex-bourbon finished or an ex-bourbon barrel aged single malt, blended with some casks that had sherry in there. The sherry is present, so there's a fruitiness on the aroma. There's a dark, subtle chocolatey aroma here from the sherry. But most of what you're getting is almost caramely, toffee kind of flavors or aromas. A decent amount of oak on the aroma. Spiciness, probably from that sherry cask. So this is extremely well integrated in terms of flavor profile. Surprisingly, even after 25 years, the oak is not overpowering on the aroma. There's still a subtle maltiness there. So there's still a little bit of the spirit shining through, which kind of tells me that this is probably being aged not, just in first fill barrels. So it does say it's finished in first fill Oloroso sherry casks, but I would imagine that that first 23, 24 years of aging was done in ex-bourbon barrels, and those are probably not all first fill ex-bourbon barrels, or else I would expect there to be a little more oak on the aroma. But that being said, the aromas that are here really nicely layered. It's maybe not quite at the complexity that I want for a $400 bottle, but everything that is going on in this glass is pretty much perfect. So let's give it a taste and see how it tastes. That is just silky. It's surprisingly grippy for 43% ABV. The sherry, that first fill sherry finishing, I think really makes this whiskey. It gives it enough body and syrupiness to where it feels like it has some weight, but 25 years in a cask has really, really softened the spirit. You get raisins, you get dark chocolate, you get nuttiness, you get oak spices popping around your mouth. You get less of the bourbon profile, I think, on the flavor. You know, there's a little bit of that bourbon character, but it's more sherry dominated on the palate, which is interesting because the aroma, I would say, is more 50-50. This is probably not what I would consider an enthusiast whiskey. And let me explain what that means. If you put this in a lineup of 6 other whiskeys, this probably wouldn't win. This is a relatively flawless whiskey. This is really well balanced aroma, really well balanced palate. The finish is still going, so it's got a long finish to it. Everything about this whiskey is really inviting, and it makes you want to drink more, and it's too sterile. It's a little too silky, and because of that, it lacks a bit of character. Now, what I will say is, compared to the Glenlivet 25 that I had on here previously, this is much better. So I would have put that in a similar profile of nothing wrong with it, no detractions that I could take away from it except that it was boring. This isn't exactly boring. That first fill Oloroso finish gives it that little bit of character that it needs. I can't see $400 for this. If this was $250, now we would be a little more in the ballpark. But even so, it needs to be higher proof or non-chill filtered or natural color or something at that price point. It's a presentation issue. And I really think what I taste in this glass is a little bit of a stunted whiskey. I think if this was presented more naturally, I think this whiskey would sing. If I was going to recommend this to somebody, I would recommend this as if you're looking for a really nice gift for someone who enjoys single malts, who enjoys Speyside single malts. So the likes of Macallan, Glenfiddich, Glenmorangie, lighter, some sherry style whiskey. I think this fits right in that category. I just think it's too expensive for what it is. I think you should go out and buy Glenfarclas 25-year-old. You're going to get a relatively similar profile, and it's going to cost you half as much. And I think you're going to be happier with it in the long run. Now, that being said, this comes in a nice wooden presentation box. It looks the part. Glenfarclas 25-year-old does not. The Glenfarclas has a cheap paper label on it. It's a boring looking bottle. It doesn't have this nice emblem or this thick wax on the top or the gold embossing. So, put it all together. I think this is more of a statement whiskey and a gift bottle in terms of pricing strategy here. Unfortunately, the way whiskey prices are going, that'll probably not come down anytime soon. So go out there, find it at a bar, try it before you buy it, see if it's worth it to you. Because you do get a really well finessed whiskey here. It's just, for me, it's not worth the price. I am extremely grateful to one of our Patreon supporters for providing this bottle for me to review. This is, notwithstanding the price, a really, really excellent whiskey. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. And if you want to see more whiskey content, check out the Whiskey Uncut podcast that I do with my friend James. It's a little more of a silly show. We do talk a lot about whiskey. It certainly goes off the rails quite a bit. And we have a lot of guests on the show from the industry and from our local whiskey groups. It's a fun time. So check out the Whiskey Uncut show on the podcast service of your choice, and also the Whiskey Uncut YouTube channel for new videos coming out when I get around to them. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers.
In Scotland, would you accidentally drive up to Talisker?